Yes, as Naina was saying, it's sort of change of duties. It's always good to uh, do different things in life, and changing the schedule is also good. Um, Without much ado, let me introduce the guest speaker for today evening. I haven't spoken to Mr. Ahluwalia, but he was well introduced to me by one of my colleagues, Nidhi. Um, and what I learned is that Mr. Ahluwalia is an industry veteran, comes with more than 35 years of experience, and that too across several industries. He's worked with telecom, IT, ITS, pharma, engineering, retail, manufacturing, and FMCG. That's hell lot of experience. And he's worked at senior management levels of leading organizations. Some of these are well-known brands like Airtel, Wipro, Max, and GHCL. His areas have been HR strategy, formulation, organizational effectiveness, succession planning, mentorship, career planning, C-suite hiring, employee engagement, performance management system, and competency building. He has also set up business units from scratch and led post M&A integrations for many organizations. Mr. Ahluwalia is also a trained assessor on the DCAC Development Assistance Center approach and has facilitated numerous individual development plans as part of succession planning and improving competency proficiency levels. He holds an MBA from FMS Delhi, one of the top ranking MBA schools in India. And currently he runs his consultancy practice out of New Delhi. He's also a visiting faculty at premier business schools, including IIM Indore, IFT Force School, and MDI. It gives me immense pleasure to invite our esteemed guest today and to speak about his topic. Thank you very much, sir, for being here. With that, I would hand it over to you.
Thank you so much, Devakar. And once again, good evening, everyone. I'm very glad to be here because of the topic, which is very, very close to my heart. And why is it close to my heart is because it doesn't help you groom professionally. It also help you groom personally, because people processes are just the same, whether you're in the organization, you're in a social gathering, or you're in a personal kind of interaction at home. So therefore, since it is a all-round kind of a initiative, it is very, very close to my heart. And over the years, I have done this IDPs with different hundreds of professionals in different hierarchical levels in different sectors and organizations. Now, a lot of people in this group may be having a kind of a question, big question in mind, that how do I stay relevant in industry? How do I keep growing in industry? How do I keep adding value to the organization I'm working for? Or if I'm an entrepreneur, how do I grow my business? Understandably, these are relevant questions because these fast changing times, where the technology is changing, where the business environment is changing, and where the competition is catching up very, very, very briskly, the companies are reinventing themselves and also asking their employees to reinvent themselves, and hence the topic individual development plan for career progression. Now, you can interrupt me if you have any question anytime. I don't have too many slides. I want to make it as interactive as possible. I just have 2 or 3 slides, which I'll show later on as a part of the format. Rest, I like to speak from my book of life. Does it make sense for everyone? A yes or no will help? All right, or a
Yes,
thumbs
sir.
up will help. All right, thank you. Now, I think what I like about this group is a wide range of wisdom that is coming through. I see Professor Saab with lots and lots of wisdom, more than me maybe. I see some youngsters who are very ambitious, maybe professionals, maybe entrepreneurs. So it's a very, very varied kind of a group. And I think it's going to be mutual learning as we go through the process. Now, one other thing to start with, I would say, any developmental process is essentially a change process, right? Any developmental process is essentially a change process. And there are three basic pillars of change. One, what should I change? Right? So a list of things, competences, skills, attitudes, etc. The first point is I must diagnose. It's a diagnostic phase. I'll explain each one of them during my presentation or during my talk. The first thing is what I need to change. Second thing is uh, how I change, right? So the IDP process, the crux of it, how do I change? So the first, what to change, the diagnostic process. Second, brick by brick, how do I change? And the third is most critical. If the third is not present, the first two are irrelevant. And the third is, do I want to change? You would have seen many professionals who have grown very high into the hierarchy, and suddenly the downfall started because they didn't keep a tab on the environmental changes happening, because of the technology changes are happening, the role expectations are changing, and therefore somewhere they just hit the blockage and the downfall started. I think this must be experienced with everyone. You must have observed certain people who have gone very fast and then suddenly there's a downfall. Now, if the change is so relevant and change is so critical, then why basically we resist change? Any question? Any inputs? Why do we resist change? Any inputs?
We want to normally remain in this what we call a very comfort zone.
All right.
Feel that we are satisfied. I mean, it's not really correct to have it, but that's most of the people feel. Or they also have a fear that, okay, if I venture to some other place, there is a risk of failures.
Very right. So anybody wants to add value?
Maybe we don't want to come out of our comfort zones. We feel so comfortable in present setup. So any change initially is always resisted by normally human beings.
Right. So what basically the basic 3-4 reasons are: number one, we are a bunch of conditioned people, right? With a very strong beliefs, with very strong sense of right or wrong. Have you seen any circus? A lot of people are here. If you go to a circus, you must have seen an elephant which is tied to a very thin kind of a peg. Have you seen? With a very thin rope. With the might of the element, he can just kick the peg and run away. But all his life, he stayed tied to that peg. Why does it happen? Any cues?
At the childhood, it was put this one and he tried that time and then he could not do it. And as he will grow that I cannot really do it. And even with the small type today, he is not realizing that he has grown up and he has got a lot of strength. Now it is a time I can break it. But it doesn't go because he just wants to remain there with the same belief.
Rajinder also talks about placebo effect. Yeah, go ahead, please.
And in another word, we can say it is the belief system he has got that he cannot change it.
Yes. So we are very conditioned people, and I think very rightly, I think Professor Saab said that we are used to a particular process, a way of working, a life. So therefore, we are not looking at opportunities. We are not looking at possibilities, but the world doesn't stay for us. It happens with the organizations. It happens with the individual. The environmental changes happen. The technological changes happen. The competition changes over. The first reason why there is a debacle. Second reason is we are most of the time living on our past laurels, which are no longer relevant today, which are no longer. Now, when I joined industry, for example, I bought my first car at the age of nearly, I think, 36 or 37. Today, when I go to the business school, a young boy or a girl is driving a huge big car. So therefore, the aspiration levels are different. And if I do not change and understand the aspiration level of my teams, of my customers, etc., I'm not going to be living in the present. And I'll be using my old ways to manage. So in a way, I'm running ahead on the road while my head at the back. So I'm bound to collide and meet with an accident. So that's the second kind of reason. Third, kind of uncertainty. I'm familiar I have a liking, I have attachment with the current processes, with the current technology, with the current set of people I'm working with. So there is a attachment, and also a inherent fear. I think that also came in the group somewhere, that I am not ready to make any difference. And fourth, I question my own ability to adapt to a new environment. It could be a technical environment, it could be a non-technical environment, it could be my way of working, understanding people aspiration, and so on and so forth. So in my career, I have seen many of the people who just stumble. I was doing this IDP for one of the BU heads in one of the organizations, and he was very surprised. He says, individual development plan for me? This company I have built, this profitability which I'm generating, it is par excellence. Now you ask me to make a IDP. So therefore, I want to continue and leave the laurels of the past. So one footnote I want to leave here is, when we look at individual development plan, we don't look at absolute numbers. We look at potential. I'll give you an example. So this gentleman may be thinking, I am a general manager of the organization at the age of 38. Who knows, he had a potential to become a managing director at the age of 32. So actually, he is living behind his career and losing so much opportunity because I'm glued to the numbers. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is not a absolute number exercise. Number one point I'm making. Number two, it is to do with potential. Number three, it is a continuous process. It's an evolving process. Am I making a point here?
Yes.
So therefore, a mindset plays a very, very big and vital role. So those people, especially, it's very difficult to deal with, who had success in the past, number one. Number two, who has grown in the career over a period of time. It becomes very, very difficult to handle them, right? So first thing we are establishing, it is a continuous process, and essentially it is a change process. That's number one. So if it is a change process, that leads to, how do I go about building my own developmental plan, whether I am an entrepreneur, whether I am a professional, whether I'm still a student. All right. Now, first we take the first two parts on the point we mentioned, what to change and how to change, while I'm creating my individual development plan. All right. Any change plan, we are referring to IDP now as a change plan and relating it to my career aspirations, to my growth aspirations, to where I want to reach over a period of time. I'm relating that. So please visualize with me a kind of a hierarchy, where I'm today, where I want to be, and how I build that bridge. With that context in mind, now I'll take the discussion forward. Interrupt me wherever you want to. Now, the first stage is what to change. Now, this is a diagnostic exercise. In this exercise, we take a stock of my proficiency level of different skills and competencies as on today. All right. Now, there could be two kinds of roles. One, you're working in an organization, a very structured kind of an environment. Second, for details, you can also go to LinkedIn and check my article. I've written a full 3-page article on entire IDP. I'll give you my LinkedIn link at the end. So you can refer to that. It's a full article I've written. So what to do, what to change. So there are two parallels I'm drawing. One, you're an individual still, maybe an entrepreneur, a startup, maybe an individual student. And second scenario, where you are in a where you are in a structured environment with lot of developmental assessment processes in place. I think we have here in this group people who are working in a structured environment and people who are entrepreneur or maybe beginning to start their career. Yes, no? Is my understanding correct? We have a mix of both. Devakar,
Yes.
you would know maybe. All right. So we have both kind of a population. So I'm addressing both. Let me go to the structured environment first. In a structured environment, I have seen over 40 years, there are certain processes, for example, 360-degree feedback, for example, skip interviews, for example, assessment centers, for example, development centers. I've been a part of these processes all through my life, most of part of my life. And there are client feedback. There's uh, something called NPS. I mean, those people from IT will definitely relate to what I'm saying is Net Promoter Score. So every quarter, the company collects data from the clients, and they segregate data into the technical issues, marketing issues, and also the developmental issues. Development issues are the people who are working on that project. So therefore, client feedback could be there from the distributor if you're working in a FMCG. It could be your internal customer if you're from manufacturing, from HR, from finance. It could be in any area you can take feedback. So what I mentioned, in a structured environment, you will have a lot of data which will be coming to you by way of skip interviews, by way of 360 feedback, by way of assessment centers, which is a battery of tools you put through people through assessment centers, and assess observes you on group exercises, on one-to-one role plays, on case studies, checking different competencies, your analytical abilities, your what you say customer orientation, for example, your collaboration, your influencing skills in a group, your team skills in a group, etc. And then normally a proficiency level report comes on different competencies on which the company feels that if the proficiency level is high on these 7 to 8 competencies on my senior people or managers, they will do well, and also the organization will do well. So this is a very structured environment. What to change? So what we recommend is wherever you are doing we're having a high proficiency level, in those cases, you use them more in the role so that you get better results. And those competencies who are scoring in proficiency level at the bottom, make an individual development plan to raise those competency levels also in proficiency levels, so that you're even more effective individual, professional, manager, HOD, or whatever position you're holding. So this is in a structured environment. Any question on what to change in a structured environment? So this is the diagnostic data which you're getting. Any questions on this?
Sir, before we go to what to change, just around resistance to change, as we started that point. So someone said belief system, right? So belief system is one, but apart from that, the value system. So core values of an individual. What do you think?
Right.
Like if a person is having a core value like a lot of integrity and honesty.
This I'll cover in how part. Just give me 2.5 to 3 minutes. It's very important topic you raised. Very important. Just give me 2.5 to 3 minutes. I'll come to that. All right?
Thank you.
Make sense?
Yeah. Yes.
Because otherwise the flow will go. I'm not reading from a paper or a slide. I'm just speaking extempore from my book of life. So the flow will break. Just give me 2 to 3 minutes. I'll come back to this. All right. Now, those people who are individual entrepreneurs, or maybe beginners, or the students, these structured processes may not exist. So in those cases, I'll share 2 formats later on. A self-awareness exercise is important, where you can go to your last 10 years or 15 years, look for situations which gave you success. All right, which gave you success. Or if you want, I can share you right now the format so that you can be with me, and maybe you can note down also. Just give me 1 minute. All right. So this is the format. First of all, you do your own analysis, because there is nothing which is coming from the organization, because the segment you're working in is basically you're an entrepreneur, starter, a student, whatever. So first, if you see, it says past. Somewhere we got a success when he said, yes, I'm top of the world. Which are those situations? Write 2 or 3 situations. It could be last 3 years, it could last 5 years, it could last 7 years, it could last 10 years. Whatever those situations are, so maybe you won a gold medal in your studies, maybe you got a scholarship, maybe you got a huge order as an entrepreneur. What was those items which got you success? Then what were some of the skills and competencies? You're doing a self-assessment, therefore, what led you to that achievement. So this is your self-achievement. Now you set your target. Now, when you're doing what to change, you always start with the existing position, that is sub-step 1, and then you go to subset 3, that is where I want to achieve, where I want to go. So therefore, as an entrepreneur, I'm sticking with a self-employed at this moment, and I'll come to the organization. I want to raise this company from 100 crore to say 500 crores in 3 years. I want to basically able to lead the leaders, not lead the supervisors or lead the population, lead the readers. So nurturing people, so and so forth. In an organizational world, there will be a job rotation. There could be succession planning. There could be foreign posting. What are those goals which I have in mind? So when I'm doing what to change, I start with diagnosis where I'm now. Then I don't go to the steps, how do I change? No, I first go to where I want to reach. Then I come backwards and then fill in the blanks, how step by step we go and achieve those things, right? I'll come to how part later on. Then I'm setting my goal, which I said from where I am to where I want to be. So what are some of the professional growth initiatives I want to have? What are certain personal growth initiatives I want to have? What are some of the strengths I use, which already I have diagnosed, I have strengths. What are the strengths I need to create? So when you populate this table, you will get some of awareness about yourself as to what has worked for me in the past, which I can use it now to my advantage. Those competencies where I'm doing very well, use it more. What are the competencies, which is the bottom two? Normally, we take only 2 competencies at a time or the 2 skills at a time because you have to do work also. You won't get work to work. What are some of the professional growths I need, the strengths I need, the competency I need, and what are the for personal growth I need the competencies. Now you need some validation because you are not maybe totally aware, you may be blind to yourself. Go to somebody who knows you very well. It could be your supplier, a small entrepreneur, could be a supplier, could be your vendor, could be a close friend if you're still a student, and ask him or her to fill this table about yourself. This is a validation exercise. All right, because in organization, the things come to you already validated. A skip interview will come to you validated. A 360 feedback will come to you validated. A assessment center report, full report will come to you with a lot of observations why the score is what it is. But in individual situation, it may not be. But without validation, it will not be a kind of a right self-assessment. So ask them to what you should continue doing, what you should stop doing, what you should start doing, and ask them to give certain behavioral data. Why do they say so? And now you put one island on the other. That means what you have assessed about yourself, which is coming from your this table, just superimpose this table on that and see some of the common area. Now this validates, yes, your assessment is correct about yourself in these areas. It could be areas of your strengths. It could be areas which still you need to work on, right? Any questions on what to change? So summarize, we have first a diagnosis of where I am, then where I want to be, and want to be, the company will have a job rotation plan, a potential appraisal for you, and also a career map ahead for you. So therefore, you can check from there where you have to go and what then competencies are required. And then I said there are 2 formats. One, you fill yourself and then validate from external people so that you are validating whether your understanding of yourself is correct or not. Is it making sense for all of you? All right, great. Now we come to how do we change? Now here I'll touch upon the values, the beliefs. Some gentlemen raised this point. Now, when you say, how do I change? I'm referring here and introducing 2 words. One is called your internal alignment, and the other is called your external alignment. I'll make it very, very, very simple. The words may sound a little difficult, but I'll make it very simple. When I say external alignment, I mean yourself and the role gap. To align that, how do I align that gap? So therefore, I'll come to how part it later on. I need to align so that tomorrow I can hold a larger position. Today, I'm a manager. Tomorrow, I hold a heterogeneous role where 2 or 3 roles report into me. After that, after 10 years, I become a CEO where I'm handling entire unit. I become even senior, maybe a managing director. Now I hold a multi-units reporting into me. So therefore, how do I integrate my existing competencies with those competencies? All right. Second is integrating internally. Now here comes the question. When I integrate internally, it is integrating with my life-giving force, where I get maximum uh, kick. For some, it could be money. For some, it could be designation. For some, it could be your learning opportunity and so on and so forth. What are my beliefs? What are my values? The value is nothing but a sense of right or wrong. And if you're too much away from what you're doing, try to align your personal values with the organizational values. But otherwise, you either will have to adapt or you may have to look for some other opportunity, right? So because value is nothing but a sense of right or wrong. And the difference between value and belief is, for example, you value honesty, but when you go to the world, you are cheated. Your belief becomes the world is not worth uh, relying on or trusting. That's your belief. So therefore, you create a dissonance internally. The more you're aligned, the better it is. So when I say internal, what do you say, alignment, look at what are my life-giving forces. Am I getting them fulfilled in this profession or not, in this business or not, or can I adapt to certain extent, to the extent possible? Otherwise, the stress level will be very, very high. So rightly pointed out, that alignment is there. So when I'm doing this how part, the first thing I do, the external alignment or integration, and also the internal integration. And then I take steps forward as to what I need to do. Am I making any sense to all of you, and especially the gentleman who asked me this question?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions up till now? I'm now beginning to enter into how part. So far we said the diagnostic part and also the target or the goal. And now we are coming to the third step, and how do I integrate them?
You don't see any questions so far. I request the audience, if you have any questions, you can always type it in the chat box, and we can definitely ask those questions. But so far, so good, sir. It's very clear and very.
All right, great. All right, so now I come to the how part. So I've taken care of my progression needs, career progression needs, either my own ambition or what company thinks about me. Because normally there is an aspiration mapping exercise that takes place parallelly. When you do a potential appraisal, you'd also do a aspiration mapping. But when you're entrepreneur or you're alone, both exercises you have to do it yourself, right? And align internally with yourself and align externally with the environment, which could be your business environment, which could be your technology, political environment, geographical environment, any environment, and also the role requirement for which you have been identified. It could be, for example, a geography head. It could be maybe from manufacturing getting rotated into marketing and so on and so forth. So that comes from there. There is the external alignment. For a use of better term, I'm using these two words, internal integration and also the external integration. Now, once that gap has been identified, now, for example, the competencies may change with the level. When you're leading supervisors, it is different. When you're leading managers, it is different. When you're leading business heads, it is different. That's number one. The competencies themselves may change. So for example, strategic thinking may not be there at the first level of supervisor, but at a CEO level, it may appear. At a DGM level, also it may appear. At a GM level, it may appear. Business acumen, it may be required for an entrepreneur, but may not be required as an operations manager or a production manager in the organization, but as you go higher up. So therefore, there could be two scenarios. One, as you grow, You may add certain competencies that becomes your part of IDP, or you have to increase the proficiency level as you go up the hierarchy. Let me explain this point and the difference. In the first case, for example, the strategic perspective was not at all there as a requirement of the role. But when you're pitched for as a geography head, it is very much required, business acumen required. So in that role, it has been added, and now you have to move towards achieving that competencies. In other case, the proficiency level required, for example, the proficiency level required in business acumen for a manager may be 3 out of 5, but for a CEO or for vice president, it could be 4 or 5 out of 5. So my IDP could be individual development plan based on my career progression could be, I have to add a competency in my KPT, or I have to simply improve my competency level into that, in that competency or skill, for about a want of better word. The skill is a part of competency. Competency is a much wider word. Am I making sense? Can you visualize this difference with me? Right? So I'm growing in the company. So either I have to add a competencies that goes to my format as a competency development, and in some cases, I may have to just improve my proficiency level because now I need more of this competency as compared to when I was at a junior level. In both the cases, they go to the development plan. As an entrepreneur, what I need to do when I'm 100 crore company is different than when I become a 1,000 crore company. Now I have to delegate more, I have to empower more, I have to nurture people more, I have to collaborate more, and so on and so forth. So the competency, the shade change, or the number of competencies, they change. Can I proceed further? Yeah, go ahead,
so
please.
can you please put this as a slideshow?
No, I don't have slides. There are only 2-3 slides. You want me to go for slideshow? I can show you. I don't have many slides actually. This was the first slide.
The words have become more clear actually.
Yeah. I didn't realize it. Thank you for pointing out.
Thank you so much.
Can I proceed now?
There's one question in the chat from Nahi.
Just 1 second. Let me go. How do I deal overwhelmed inner way of being with team, like being so aggressive and hyper achiever with team to be aligned? So this is a question or a statement. I don't know. It's quite a long. Now, how do I deal overwhelmed inner way of being? That means you are more hyper. You are a high achiever.
Yes.
How do I align with the team? I think that's the question.
Yeah, the team, matches my expectations and my energy. So that's the struggle. So how to go about it? Just your point of view.
Okay. Now, partly, again, if you could have given me 3-4 minutes more, I would have come to that how part. But since the question has come, let me deal with you now. Now, when you do the how part, normally there are 3 ways we achieve a proficiency level, either in a new competency or a high proficiency level in the existing competency. Now, this aggression, hyperactivity, and so on and so forth, these go under coaching and mentoring. Okay, I'm touching a subject which is not a part of this discussion. Okay, still I'm touching the subject. There are 3 ways where you give inputs to an employee if you're an organization, or to self if you're an entrepreneur. There are 3 ways. All right. The first is your self-study. That is, you read books, recommended books, you go to the internet, download studies. There are thousands of studies, tons of data available today. You go a training program, you go for a higher education, right? So and so forth. This is one way of improving the competency. For example, strategic thinking. So I get basics of what is the strategic thinking, what are the elements of strategic thinking, what are the components of strategic thinking from a structured course or some books or the training program. That is one part of it. But it doesn't help you if you stop here. I have to do something on the job to apply it. So largest proportion of your learning comes from doing something on the job. So whenever we identify, for example, we identify collaboration as one competency, or nurturing people as one competency, or strategic thinking as one competency, normally we don't take more than 2 at a time, because you have to do your work also and you'll be leaving behind. We identify that. Now I'm entering into how part. You identify that competency, and then after that, you choose a project through which you can apply the learning. So I'm linking your learning from the workshops, from the books. Just visualize. I picked up 2-3 things as inputs. To improve this competency, I take a project. Now, for example, I'll give you an example. For example, nurturing people is not a good competency. The question which you have asked, aggression, normally nurturing people will not be your strength area. So therefore, the performance of some people will be much, much lower compared to others. So I take a project. Currently, there are 4 people in my team who are below the level of performance which they should be giving output to the organization. And I take a project to improve their performance in next 6 to 8 months. So this is on the job project. For example, my collaboration competency is scoring low. So I take a cross-functional project. For example, how do I improve the turnaround time in a particular area? For example, product development. How do so I collaborate with marketing, I collaborate with R&D, and I choose a project. I have no knowledge. I apply that knowledge in my on-the-job project. Now, there also normally fill a format. Just visualize with me. You name the competency, then you name the kind of milestones in which this project will be divided. For example, you want to take up a project on say strategic thinking or business acumen. You may like to collect the computation data. So first milestone is getting benchmark data from the industry. Second could be comparing benchmark data with our own process in the organization. Third could be I do a pilot run for 2 months on a product line or a production line or R&D, and I see how it works for 2 months. Then third, I make changes and stabilize the process. So I have a competency. I've given the title to improve the turnaround time of say R&D or say marketing department. Then I have the milestones of collecting data. Any goal you take to improve has to be measurable. So I'll say I'll reduce the project title will be I'll reduce the project I reduce the turnaround time from 6 weeks to 4 weeks. So this is the project title. I reduce the cost of rework from 25,000 per month to 5,000 per month. They all has to be measurable. This is what we stress, because when you go to the boss after 6 months, you say, I've arrived. Boss says, no, I don't agree with you. There could be difference of opinion. So normally we say you define a project in terms of numbers. It could be a percentage improvement. It could be loss reduction. It could be savings. It could be raw material usage reduction, cost of rework reduction, anything which is measurable that you take as a project. So you define the project title. Then you say 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the steps I will take. So for each step, you define a time frame. So 15 days, 1 month, 2 months, 2 months. So the total project becomes about 6 months. Then you say the support I require. So for example, you may need certain financial approvals. So support required from finance department or your managing director, etc. You put in front of every milestone. And last, what are some of the stumbling blocks you see in the projects? And the last, how do you overcome? Can you see a format now emerging in front of you? Can you see visualize that? Yes. So yeah, there is a competency. There's a competency. I have taken the project title, which is measurable and time bound. So in 6 months, I reduce the cost of rework from X to Y. So I'll reduce that. So this is measurable. I divide them into milestone. Why I divide to milestone is because this gives you a kind of a adrenaline effect. Once you achieve a target, you must celebrate that, so that it gives you something that you are on track and motivates you to continue in that direction. Then I say the support required from the management or support required whatever. And then what do you see as stumbling blocks? The data would have gone to archives. The systems data may not be available. In the systems, the data may not be available. So how do you overcome that? The competition may not give you the pricing strategy. For example, if you're doing a project in marketing, the turnaround time they may not give you. Now, how do you overcome them? And then you start doing it. So there is self-learning and there is a project. Now is a very, very vital link between these two. Without that, you may not succeed. So three things I said. First is self-development. Second is the project on the job when you transfer. Third is feedback and review. And here I think that question gets addressed, that aggression part and other parts that gets addressed. There has to be somebody identified. It could be a professor for the students. It could be somebody senior for those who are entrepreneurs. It could be a HR head in your organization if you're working. It could be a boss who has to assume the role of a mentor or a coach and give you regular feedback, preferably initially on a weekly or a fortnight basis. If you don't have this review and feedback mechanism, you're just like a ship sailing in sea without knowing where you're going. You want to go to Amsterdam, you'll land at Alaska. Plus, it's not motivating because milestones you will be missing, you may not achieving it. So somebody who gives you feedback, who mentors you, who coaches you. Now comes your aggression and all. Now, this is a part of coaching and mentoring exercise where you say that that is not the only way of getting the work done. Consensus is also a good way to arrive at. Look at the benefits and the losses and the loss. Look at your attrition data. So the coach or a mentor pulls out certain data, last data, maybe the exit interviews, maybe the skip interview data, maybe 360 feed data, because when you have data, the discussion becomes more structured and it adds more value. The acceptance is very, very high. When the data is not there, the acceptance is not there. So then it becomes a mentoring and coaching exercise. And then you keep on getting the skip interview data or 360 feedback data for next 2 or 3 quarters. And you see whether the feedback has improved and the aggression has gone down or not. See, as a boss, you can only know how my manager achieves, whether my manager is achieving my target or not. But it's only their reportees who will sell what is his style of managing us. So is it too aggressive? It is too target oriented. Now, many such people who are aggressive and target oriented, they're very good for projects. They are the ones who drive projects very quickly. You may look for a job rotation from them because they are the ones very target oriented. They're not too much emotion oriented. They go with the numbers. They go with the outcome. They go with the output. So I'm suggesting two things. One, it's an individual coaching and counseling and mentoring. If it works. Second, it could be you give them the kind of a role for which they are more suitable into the organization. For example, a project's role could be, it can drive teams to that, but see that it doesn't damage the team morale and keep on taking a regular skip or a 360 feedback from the team members. Have I answered your question? Somebody asked me.
Yeah, you are,
on
I should
aggression?
say, yeah, you are awesome. And let me please compliment you in 30 seconds. What I got from you, you are so passionate. You are so passionate. I see 110% delivery. Thank you so much. God bless you. We'll stay connected with you.
Thank you.
Mr.
So, any other
Ahluwalia,
question? They request your contact information to so and so. So on LinkedIn, I'll share my link at the end. So yeah, sorry, somebody was saying something.
Can you hear me, Mr. Ahluwalia?
Yes, yes, I can clearly.
Yeah. So when you're talking about, the people who are with aggression, if they are given more of a project kind of a thing, there will be more, time-oriented completion of the projects. But in that also, I think we need to be careful about, in order of being, very aggressive or time-bound, they should not, miss out something in between which could be critical for the success of the project. So there has to be some mechanism of monitoring them also.
Yes. So I think the second line, I think I couldn't communicate you correctly. there also a constant feedback mechanism has to be there. See, normally in organization, last 40 years I've seen people, they are justifying being aggressive. My role demands that. There's no role in the organization which demands that. If your attrition is high, if the morale is low, somewhere you're going to miss the targets. And even if you achieve, maybe again, we are missing the point. It is nothing to do with your absolute values. It is to do with your potential. Maybe the potential was there to complete the project in 4 months. You took 5 months because the attrition was very, very high. And there was training cost, there was hiring cost. Actually, you're exceeding the budget. So therefore, if you talk on data, normally acceptance is very high. And these are the people normally, they're more data driven, they're more time driven. So somewhere it becomes a mentoring and coaching exercise. In addition to that, continuously feed the data from the team as to, without mentioning the name, who said what. Who said what is not important here. It's the content is what more important. So no, I'm not giving license to be aggressive in a project's role. I'm not saying that. You'll see certain political leaders in different countries, they were very good wartime leaders, but when the peace came, they were voted out. I'm not naming a leader, but then yes, there were some leaders in the history, they were voted out. So therefore, for a very specific time, when there is a fire, when you have to achieve a project, when you have to meet a deadline of marketing a product, for example, they could be very, or there's fire in the factory, then it is declaration of emergency. You have to leave. You can't have a consensus how you extinguish fire. Can you? You don't. You need somebody who directs people that extinguish fire with sand, with water, or whatever. So the use of knowledge plus aggression. But that is only for a very, very limited time. It doesn't give you license to go ahead. In such case, see, I was doing a assessment center, and in that I was playing a role play with a candidate. He was the department head in a plant in Chennai, automobile ancillary organization. So during that period, he was only driving me for the delivery in that role play. Achieve the target, achieve the SOPs, the attrition has to go down, this only driving me, not empathizing me at all with what are my limitations. The raw material is not coming, the stores is not, the project is not cooperating with me. So when we were discussing the review report with the managing director of the company, I said around about this person, what I feel, if given a choice between using administrative fiat and persuasion, he will choose administrative fiat. And he says you're 2000% correct. And that's why attrition is very, very high in his team. You're achieving target, but at what cost? Come on. If the attrition is so high, if the project delays are there, I'm not giving any license. Have I answered your question? Somebody asked me this question. Have I answered? A yes or no with help?
Yeah. Perfect.
Right. So therefore, this becomes a kind of a coaching and mentoring exercise. So when I say there are 3 bundles of self-development, I've identified what I need to grow, where I have to go, that I've identified, but there are 3 basic blocks to achieve that. First is self-reading for conceptual knowledge. Second is I apply them on a project, 6 to 8 months, see the success. And then after that, to review whether, now this review is different from your performance review. This review is different from your QBR, quarterly business review. This review is different from your performance review, which is a monthly review. It is your developmental review. Could be your boss, could be HR head, could be a professor, could be a colleague, could be anyone in the organization who can give you feedback, who knows you very well and your way of working, and mentors you, coach you, and give you feedback. Otherwise, you will be a ship without a compass, and you lose the steam very, very fast and lose the motivation. You'll not, all the exercises of identifying areas will go waste. All the training will go waste. Everything will go waste. Am I making a point? Okay, I think I've exceeded my given target. If you have any other 1 or 2 questions, you can ask me. I think the time was still about 8 o'clock. I have exceeded the time. Any other questions, any other queries? I'll be too happy to answer. Yeah, go ahead, please. Somebody.
Sir, how do you suggest, following the facilitation method in terms of, executing any projects where you need to take your team along with you, and you use the facilitation process whereby, develop a process whereby everybody comes up with your vision, maybe with the, diversified opinions, and then converge it to a final output, and then you start implementing that. How do you suggest that?
Can you specify a project? When you say project, it could be a new plant coming up. Project could be you are going into a geography which you're not there. It could be a project. You're going to a foreign territory. It could be a project. You're starting a new product line in manufacturing. This could be a product. So can you specify so that there could be a specified response?
It's not related to any specific industry. What I wanted to understand was, normally when you have a team of people working under a leader, and instead of a leader imposing his ideas, instead if he uses a facilitation process, engaging them to come up with a group wisdom, and then evaluate that, then implement it, the acceptability by the team is much easier in that case.
Okay, now I think you answered your question yourself, but let me still elaborate. A collaborative approach is not necessarily a democratic approach. Actually, the worst part is if in any department you took decision by show of hands. It's the worst department, I'll say, in my personal definition. The best department is consensus, where there is a brainstorming, there is data exchange, the limitations are discussed, there is a logic why I'm disagreeing with you. The intent is in the interest of the organization. The intent is in completion of the project. So I value, and it's also a cultural issue in the organization. It could be a political thing. It could be a cultural thing. Yeah, again, you're asking a question. Go ahead.
I exactly meant the same thing. What you're saying, when I'm saying about the facilitation process, engage the team in group discussion, come out with different ideas, and then evaluate each idea, and then converge it to a final conclusion with as to how things are to be implemented. So that's where the collective wisdom comes of all the team members, and you, in the meantime, you can as a leader can contribute in giving your inputs in your own way without influencing your mindset to them. But what ultimately comes out of their divergent views, and they discuss amongst themselves, and then they come out with the finer points, and then you evaluate that and implement. Do you think that that's what exactly you are also saying?
Professor Saab, you have a similar question?
Yeah, no, don't have similar question. I want to add on what you said and what is the question. What I'm feeling is when we talk about this one, the starting point is not that we call them and then try to take the opinion and try to judge over that. Instead of that, the better will be first let everybody come together, and a leader express that this is what is the responsibility, this is what we have to achieve, this is how we have to go. When everybody in this one then start having brainstorming on that, how do we go about? Where are the problems like this? And with that solutions and other things, whatever decision comes there, that will be the treated decision of the whole team rather than a single person or imposed by this one. That is the type of this one we should have. Then it will give the results. Then everybody is together.
Yeah, I agree with you, Professor. Now, again, to add on further, disagreements is not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing. And I've seen many organizations, they don't do a climate survey or the perception survey.
Yeah.
I hope you're able to relate with what I'm saying, all of you. If anyone doesn't, then let me know. So they don't do a perception survey or a climate survey with the people, with the employees, because they're fearful what will come. My recommendation is do that, because if you know their mindset, you can deal with it. You should be worried about what you don't know, because people will base their action on their perception, which may not be a reality.
That's why they say the known devil is better.
So therefore, they will base their action on their perception, may not be on reality. So therefore, now just to convert that, there can't be any scientific black and white, because we are dealing with people and we are all gray as our personalities are. So I can't give you a black and white. You have to see the culture of the organization, how suggestion scheme, grievance handling, reward mechanism, incentive, all those you have to see. But yes, if everything is in place, there is suggestion scheme, the grievance handling scheme, there's the escalation process, everything is in place. Then I think as a leader, I must give them a compulsive vision.
Yes.
Especially, I've done a lot of mergers and acquisitions. Now, the company being acquired, 75% of the managers, they leave in first 3 years. Why have you acquired if the talent is going? You wasted your money and got nothing, a hollow organization. So therefore, there has to be, number one, a compulsive vision. When that is there, it is a cultural issue whether you share the vision or not. Otherwise, what happens is the top man knows and only the operation people knows that this much you have to produce this day or this much you have to deliver. But if there is a communication process within the organization, it is designed in such a way that there is a communication process, then disagreements are healthy because the intent is correct. They are not saying, unless it's a political organization, to pull the leader down so that tomorrow you get a good beating and dressing down from the chairman or MD of the company. If there is an agenda, no, I can't handle that agenda, definitely not. But there must be some experiences people had, even if there's a political agenda, they are behaving in a particular manner. If I change the experience of people, the behavior changes, the result changes. That's all I'm saying. I can't give you in black and white. So a little bit of diagnosis, all these tools which I mentioned, perception survey, climate survey, etc., they give you where are the gaps. Do I improve the now again, information sharing doesn't mean you share the patents with everyone. It's a need to know basis. They must understand where I have to draw a line. Beyond that, it won't be shared. The pricing strategy, maybe it's not to be told with everyone. It's a very competitive edge. So therefore, no black and white, but yes, to conclude, there has to be compulsive vision. There has to be culture where I can voice. There has to be positive intent. And then maybe we can go, but definitely not a show of hand. I'm not believer of that in an organization. Then you're not collaborative enough. That's not your core strength as a department or as an organization. I've answered your question, gentlemen, who asked me this question.
Okay, sir, you spoke about a perception survey. So even if the perception survey is done, but its result is not shared. So sometimes the leader thinks, there is no need of sharing the results with the team. So
I think you should
in
not
that
do a
case,
perception survey.
And it will not happen.
See, that's what I said. Now, many people fear what will come. I said, don't fear because that you can handle. It is coming, you know. You should fear what is not coming. So therefore, I think when you're doing a perception survey, you owe it back to the masses. What is their perception? In which areas the company is doing well? Perception is what? It's about certain processes. It may not be reality. Reality may be totally different. If it's ignorance of people, then I think communication is not working in that company. Have some webinars, have some more internal platforms, do intranet, share of information. That's the one thing if there is ignorance. If there is no ignorance, it is a correction which is required. Then but by not sharing, what have you gained? By not sharing and not taking corrective action, you have only incurred expenses. Next year, go to those people again, they'll not fill your form. Tell us first what happened to the last year perception survey. Then we'll fill this year. Will they fill? Will you fill? I ask you this question. Will you fill? You'll not fill. That means my voice is not being heard. Why should I waste my breath if it's not being heard? So there has to be. Now, let me tell you, all of us as employee, I have been employee for more than 35 years before I became a consultant. I always knew if there are 10 things which we think the company should be doing, it is not possible on this earth by any company to resolve all the 10 issues. But if company shares back, this has come, we have through focus group discussion, prioritize these things. These 3 things will take this quarter or this year, rest we'll see the next year. The employee will feel heard. Employee will feel that the company has a positive intent and we are inclusive in the decision-making process. But if you're not sharing, if you're not showing them a roadmap, what face you have to go next year? Come on, you have no face.
They don't get the right kind of buying. They don't get the right kind of buying from the HR
what
department.
For collecting data, wasting company time, money? Actually, you're frustrating people. You're making them realize that you are no longer interested to listen to them. You're not important. You're actually demoralizing. It's counterproductive to the entire organization's output and productivity. I'm making sense for you.
Yes.
Yeah. So I leave it to the organizers now, whether we need to stop here, because I think I've overshot the time, but very, very interesting discussion. I'll just take you forward to one or two more slides before. I think it got stuck here. I thought I'll give you my, but anyway, I'm available on LinkedIn. So
yeah, please share your LinkedIn ID also.
Yeah, let me share it once again if I can. I think because I didn't move the slide, it got stuck.
Yeah, you can play the slides. They were really informative.
So all I'm trying to say is, this is a Roman philosopher who said, it is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that they are difficult, right? You may not succeed in everything as an organization, but at least you'll succeed in 2, 3 that will show the intent. The intent is more important to share with employees than the action, because that makes the perception of the people. So therefore, as an individual, from coming from a macro organization to an individual, why I can't do should be transferred into what else can I do? Because otherwise you're just with the old way of working, old way of thinking, but the competition has gone ahead, the technology has gone ahead, the pricing strategy, the marketing, the consumer preferences all have changed. So you'll be like some of those companies who are the brightest companies at one time on the planet, and today they don't exist at all. You must be having so many armor to need. Lastly, I'll just give you my details in case somebody wants to interact with me. Oh God, it's gone. Yeah. So these are the detail, Ahluwalia r2011@gmail.com. And this is my LinkedIn address. This entire topic in much more elaborate way is given in my article. Please go there, read that article. I'm also preparing one more article, writing that article actually. It's in the final stages on leadership basically. How do you induct leaders in a very heterogeneous environment